Israel woke up to sirens and rocket strikes as Hamas launched one of the biggest offensives on Israel in recent memory. At least 2,000 rockets were fired and Hamas terrorists infiltrated Israel in large numbers. Innocent civilians were also abducted by the Hamas terrorists. Israel has confirmed at least 70 deaths, and as of now, the number has been updated. Many believe that the death toll could be much higher. Following what was one of the biggest escalations in recent times, the Israeli Prime Minister declared that the country is at war and Hamas will pay a heavy price.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה, לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה. הבוקר חמאס פתח במתקפת פתע רצחני נגד מדינת ישראל ונגד אזרחיה. אנחנו בתוך זה משעות הבוקר המוקדמות. כינסתי את ראשי מערכת הביטחון. הנחיתי קודם כל לטהר את היישובים מהמחבלים שחדרו פנימה. הפעולה הזאת מתבצעת בשעות הללו. במקביל הוריתי לבצע גיוס מילואים נרחב ולהשיב מלחמה שערה בעוצמה ובהיקף שהאויב לא הכיר. האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע כמותו. אני קורא בינתיים לכל אזרחי ישראל להישמע בקפדנות להנחיות הצבא, להנחיות פיקוד העורף. אנחנו במלחמה ואנחנו ננצח בה. מהבוקר מדינת ישראל נמצאת במלחמה. היעד הראשון שלנו הוא קודם כל לתאר את השטח מכוחות האויב שחדרו פנימה ולהשיב את הביטחון והשקט ליישובים שהותקפו. היעד השני במקביל הוא לגבות מחיר עצום מהאויב גם ברצועת עזה. היעד השלישי הוא לבצר זירות אחרות כדי שאיש לא יטעה ויעשה את הטעות להצטרף למלחמה הזאת. אנחנו במלחמה צריך לשמור על קור רוח. אני קורא לכל אזרחי ישראל להתאחד כדי להשיג את היעד העליון שלנו, ניצחון במלחמה.
All right, now in the terror attack, the death toll has increased. Israeli Defense Forces have issued a report saying 200 plus casualties have been reported and there are 1,000 plus injuries that have been reported, and more than 3,000 rockets were launched by Hamas and 20 plus communities were invaded by Hamas terrorists. In fact, Israeli citizens and forces have also been taken hostage. This is a statement that has come in from the IDF after the terror attack, saying the numbers have increased and the death toll has also increased. And it's not just that. There are 200 plus casualties and 1,000 plus injuries that have been reported so far.
And this will shape and influence the future of this war against Israel, and it will shape the future of what we're doing against Hamas. The first priority of the IDF is to restore the situation in the south, to make sure that our Israeli communities are safe, and then to get a full and comprehensive tally of the numbers of Israelis, where everybody is, and account for each and every Israeli civilian and soldier. Then to make sure that the border is closed and that future attacks are prevented and that Hamas won't have any other opportunities to attack Israel. Third, and that's already ongoing, we will start to strike Hamas's military targets in Gaza.
All right, update coming in of a medical center also being targeted by the Hamas rocket fire. Hours before the strike, a doctor who's the director of the medical center moved the patients to safety. But clearly this is indiscriminate firing against civilians. My colleagues Rishabh and Pradeep are joining us on the broadcast. Let's take a word from Rishabh on that update. Rishabh, civilians are very clearly being targeted, even medical centers not being spared.
Definitely, the Brazalai Medical Center, which is in southern Israel, was targeted by Hamas rocket fire. Hours before the strike, Dr. Chek Levy, the director of the medical center, and his staff moved the patients to a safe location. This is what we are given to understand. The Israeli Defense Forces are now confirming that the medical center, the Brazalai Medical Center, was attacked by the rocket, but just before the rocket hit the medical center, the patients were moved to safety, and there is an indiscriminate firing. We have seen people standing on bus stands. At bus stands have been fired upon. They have been killed. Children, women, elderly people have been killed in southern Israel. The terror attack sees no end even now. The Israeli army confirming that the situation is still not under control.
Okay, all right. Rishabh, thank you for joining us with that update. Pradeep, looking at the extent of the violence that has been unleashed on Israel, this is a very precision strike by Hamas, and very clearly the target is the innocents, women, children, all residential places and even medical center being targeted by the Hamas terrorists.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It will not be wrong if we compare this with the 9/11 attack that was carried out by Al-Qaeda terrorists. And in this particular incident, it is the Hamas terrorists who have unleashed attack. They are targeting civilian areas. And they have taken many of them hostage because they are trying to use those hostages as bargaining chip once they are on the negotiation table, because that's where they will be able to put more pressure on Israeli government. That's what they are trying to do. And the second thing is that, as you had been listening to the Israeli Defense Forces also, they said the biggest challenge right now is that they have to secure the southern area, which has faced the impact of this terror attack. Because southern area, we have seen that these Hamas terrorists, they've already infiltrated through 3 different routes. One was the subterranean route. They breached the fence also. They were able to use those gliders, paragliders to enter inside the territory, and also sea route. So what they have to do is, first they have to track them, pin them down. Only then they will be able to ensure the safety of the people there. Second, what they have to do is that this conflict doesn't spread to the other areas in Israel. The third, they have to ensure that they have to keep the northern areas where the Hezbollah fighters are there, to keep them at bay so that they don't become a part of this conflict also, and they also launch an attack on them. So they have to keep them at bay, also maintain the security there, and that's what actually is required. And fourth, already they have started, we've seen that how they're using the fighter jets to target many of those installations from where these people had been firing rockets at them. And Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the Prime Minister of Israel, has already issued a stern warning that they are going to raise to rubble all these hideouts of Hamas, and they will have to pay the consequence for that. War has been started by them, and we are going to end the war by winning that war. So Israel has made it a point that they are going to properly decimate and demolish all those hideouts of Hamas people. But yes, what is really more important right now is that on one hand, where we are seeing the world communities with Israel, except for Pakistan and China, again, you can see they are playing the duplex role. Like, for example, the role of the duplicity is quite visible so far as Pakistan and China is concerned. Pakistan is once again siding with the Palestine, and Chinese statement, though they condemn the attack, but they are again asking for the sovereign state. They say the peace will continue to remain fragile unless and until you give a sovereign state to the Palestinians. When you say this thing, you are somewhere trying to support Hamas elements and all those Islamic jihadists who had been there for the cause. And we have seen that these Islamic jihadists have already given a call for asking their brothers in different Arab world to come unite and fight along their side. So that will be the biggest challenge right now for the world community and Israel, because at a time when we have a Russia-Ukraine war, already we have seen the Taliban have taken control of Afghanistan, and this now war news starting in Israel and Palestine. This is definitely going to shape the world, and it's going to have the different kind of consequences. One has to understand, see, who is going to benefit from this war. Number one, it's quite clear, because we knew that there is going to be a corridor that's called India-Arab-Mediterranean corridor, and that was a counter to Belt Road Initiative of China. So China always wanted to have an influence in this area. They never ever wanted that corridor to come up. That means they wanted to stall that process. Somewhere it seems that China indirectly had been helping these elements and allowing these elements to work, and maybe the kind of the weaponry that has been used has been provided by China.
In fact, the kind of arms and ammunition that they were carrying also raised several questions on what is the backing that they have. Do stay with us, Pradeep. More updates coming in. There's a new video of the Israel air raids in Gaza that has now emerged. Israel's counter-strike continues after the shocking attack that took Israel by surprise. Now, counter-strikes by Israel. A new video has emerged of the Israeli air raids in the Gaza Strip. And this video shows Israel's counter-attack, dramatic visuals coming in. Pradeep, this is what Israel was talking about when it said that it is in a state of war. And it said very clearly that Hamas will have to pay a price.
Yes, from this video, it's quite clear that they are trying to target their installation. They are trying to hit their hideouts where from the Hamas had been operating, where from they had been firing rockets at them, because that is the only punitive response that can really help Israeli forces right now to have an upper hand, because by demolishing and decimating their hideouts, they will be sending a message loud and clear that any kind of activity against Israel will not be tolerated, because it's not a tit-for-tat response. It's basically punitive action that has been launched by the Israeli forces right now against the Hamas, and that message was 100% loud and clear by none other than Prime Minister of the country, Benjamin Netanyahu. But yes, what is a matter of concern is because if you look at these hideouts also, hideouts are in the highly populated areas, because during the process there is every possibility of even civilian getting killed, because they are not having hideouts away from the population. So when you have the hideouts in the populated areas, civilians getting killed, obviously they will start raising concerns that see how the human rights are being violated, how the civilians are being targeted. This has been the strategy of Hamas and other terror organizations and Islamist jihadists operating from that area. Once there is a civilian casualty, they know that this way it will become very easy for them to indoctrinate and brainwash other people also to join their war against Israel and justify their act of terror against the people of Israel. That's what they will do. And third thing is that they know that this will help them to continue with the vicious cycle of violence, and never ever there will be peace in the region. That's what actually they wanted, because they always wanted to scuttle Abraham Accord, because we have seen that during the last few years, even the Arab world and the Israel were coming together. We have seen how the relationship between the Bahrain, UAE and the Israel had improved. Even now the Saudi was also on the table. There were Americans who were trying to broker a deal between the Saudi Arabia and Israel also. So never ever these Islamist jihadists supported by China and many other countries like Iran and Turkey, they wanted that this thing should happen. So that's why they wanted to scuttle that Abraham Accord. This was given a setback to that accord also. Now, because
yes,
what is to be seen, what will be the response of the Arab world in the coming day? That's really very important at a time when the whole world is backing Israel and condemning this terror attack.
Absolutely,
and this
because
war
it's
that
a
has
very, very dramatic escalation. Stay with us, Pradeep. We continue getting new visuals of the counter-strike by Israel. You know, there are questions on what prompted this attack, but now visuals coming in of a building collapsing in Gaza Strip. So more visuals coming in of the counter-strike by Israel. Building collapsing within seconds. This is again in the Gaza Strip. Look at these visuals. The counter-strikes by Israel continuing, and all of the Hamas hideouts being targeted by the Israeli forces. So dramatic visuals coming in from the Gaza Strip. And as the Israeli Prime Minister has said, these counter-strikes from Israel is just the beginning. Israel is going to ensure that Hamas pays the price for this. So Pradeep, this is what we were talking about on the counter-attack coming in from Israel. Their innocents have been targeted, the women, children, people from Israel, innocents being targeted by the Hamas terrorists, and now they're paying the price. We're getting dramatic visuals from the Gaza Strip of buildings being flattened out by the Israeli airstrikes.
Yes, you're absolutely right, because this is a crime against humanity that has been committed by the Hamas terrorists once they infiltrated into the southern Israel and the central Israel, where we saw that how they had been opening fire, targeting people, taking them as hostage. Many of them were dragged to Gaza Strip also. So the moment these visuals erupted, immediately after that we saw that a stern warning was issued by none other than the Prime Minister of Israel, that we are going to raise your hideouts to rubble. Exactly what is happening. You can see in the visuals, viewers, how this building is crumbling like a pack of cards, because when it comes to the technology and the aircrafts, nobody can match Israel, because Israel has got the best ever technology so far as the defense forces are concerned. So you can see how they are targeted. It's an attack with the precision, pinpointed attack, because they knew that here is the hideout of the Hamas people. They are putting up here. So immediately they launched an attack and they brought this building to ground, and that's how they are going to deal with Hamas. And very soon you will find even the ground forces also operating, because once the Air Force is able to do with their job, you will find that Israeli ground forces also moving into the Gaza Strip, and they will try to ensure that each one of the Hamas fighter is taken to task, because they were the one who unleashed terror on their soil. They infiltrated, they continued with the unprovoked aggression, because this was the festival time, because everybody was in a festival mood, and yesterday morning we saw that about 6:30.
The last day of holidays, so it was very clearly targeted. And Pradeep, like you're pointing out, it was very, very clearly planned out as well. It was the last day of the holidays in Israel, which means that people would be in their homes. It was an important festival, and it was also targeted, timing it in a way that in these residential areas that have been targeted by the Hamas terrorists, residents would be at their home, unarmed people being attacked by those who were well armed with ammunition as they entered these residential complexes.
Yes, you're absolutely right. If you look at the modus operandi of the attack, let me explain the viewers the modus operandi of the attack. First, it was an unprovoked aggression from their side. They fired about 5,000 rockets because they did not allow the Israeli defense forces to even raise their head by the time they understood what exactly is going on. In the meantime, they started with the process of infiltration. And once they continued with the infiltration, after that, the process of operation started. They started targeting the people because they were in a festive mood. And it was the last day of the festival and Shabbat. And see, most of them were in a festive mood. They were at their places. All of a sudden, there was a shrill voice of a siren. Then there was an explosion. And by the time they realized, they found that these Hamas fighters entering inside their homes, opening fire, killing them. They were targeting each and every person coming their way. They did not even spare the passer-by vehicle. They did not even spare the medical center. And we saw that how they dragged women and the way they behaved with them. It was completely inhuman. So no country is going to tolerate that. That's why the Prime Minister of Israel said they will have to pay price for that. And if you look at this attack also, this cannot happen in a day. That means the planning for this attack was going on for some time. And there is definitely a backing of some country who is helping this Hamas fighter, because it is definitely going to have the different kind of consequences. Because if we look at this attack, and definitely it's going to embolden and encourage many of those Islamic jihadists in different parts of the world. And it's also a matter of concern for India, because India, like Israel, had been the victim of Islamist jihadist sponsored terrorism, either from Pakistan or from different countries. So they had been facing this brunt for long. So India also need to be really concerned about this thing. That's one of the reasons that India was one of those first countries to express solidarity with the people of Israel and also condemn that attack without mincing words. The tweet came from the Prime Minister's side. And we have seen that over the period of time, the relationship between the Israel and India has further been strengthened. It's not only at the security level. It's not only about buying equipment, but also the kind of the Sanskriti that both the countries share. And when nobody was allowing the Jews, it was the India that has accepted Jews with the open arms. And we have seen that's one of the reasons that when 26/11 attack was carried out in Mumbai, what they did, the terrorists who came from the Pakistan side, they even targeted Jews, because they always tried to target people because they knew that the Jews and the Indians have a bond, and also they wanted to target the commercial capital. So both the countries understand the consequences of this Islamist jihadism, and that's one of the reasons that both the countries have been fighting it together. Now you can see this attack was somewhere planned. There are some countries who are helping them. Obviously Hamas, everybody knows, being funded by Iran. And then who is helping Iran also? Everybody knows that how China really wants to have an influence in this region. They cannot see that Indian footprints more in this region. They cannot see Israel calling shots, and even United States having a share in that area. So that's one of the reasons that China will definitely love to scuttle.
All right. In fact, it has escalated now. Pradeep, more details coming in. Israel says that it has struck structures belonging to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Remember, earlier today we also reported how rockets had also been fired from southern Lebanon. So escalation, a clear escalation taking place, with Israel also now with a counter-strike saying that it has struck structures that belong to Hezbollah in the southern Lebanon region. That's a big update, Pradeep. In fact, earlier today, there were also strikes from southern Lebanon towards Israel, and now there has been a counter-strike with several structures belonging to Hezbollah being targeted in southern Lebanon as well. All right, we'll go back to Pradeep in just a moment, but the sudden escalation that we're seeing here with southern Lebanon also being targeted. In fact, rockets were also fired from here into Israel. Big story. We continue getting you these updates. Quick break. We'll be right back.